All right, so welcome to Notes for Success, Practical Strategies for Note-Taking. My name is Morgan Pruitt, and I'm the Outreach and Assessment Librarian. I'm located at the Harnett campus, but I also meet with students across the 3 campuses that we have. And then joining me today is Candace, who is the Director of Student Success. So let's start off with a question. Do you take notes in class? If so, how do you take notes? And if you don't take notes, can you tell us a little bit about why you don't? No pressure to share, but if you'd like to, please feel free to use the chat. If you do take notes, do you tend to take them by hand, or do you take, oh, so Candace, you always take notes, and then I take notes in class, but not very good at keeping up. And that's okay. Yeah, that's a common thing that I think a lot of people struggle with. I know I do. If you take notes, do you take them by hand or you take them on a laptop? What's the way that you take notes? I always write mine out. I'm a very much someone who has to write my notes, very tactile. Usually write yours out. Great. That is a great method. They actually say that writing your notes out can help you to remember things a little bit more effectively than if you type them. So here are some benefits to taking notes. There are lots, but I'm going to highlight just 3 of them today. Notes can help you to learn and retain information more quickly. Notes can help you to stay organized and guide your studying. And then notes can personalize your learning, meaning that everybody's experience in class can be quite different. But when you take notes, you can make sure that you understand what's happening in your class. And of course, you wouldn't be here at this session if you didn't appreciate the value of taking good notes. So you probably have experienced these benefits at one point or another. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you 2 methods of taking notes that you may have already heard of before. And then Candace will kind of take you through some steps that will be very practical in how you take notes. So first is the Cornell Method. Has anybody heard of this method before? Anybody tried it? Okay, so you have heard of it before. That's good. This method of note-taking can be very helpful when you are trying to work through pre-class ideas and questions and post-class ideas and questions. Yes, I will say before I got to looking into this method, I'd only heard of it. So I've never actually taken notes in this way. I'm going to show you what a format for the Cornell Method would look like. When I share the slides in the presentation with you, you'll actually be able to interact with these slides, and you can download a copy of this layout. And you're welcome to make as many copies as you'd like and use them as you see fit. So I'm going to open that up for us here. So you'll see that the link forces you to make a copy, so it will be your own personalized copy. You'll see here we have class and topic up at the top, as well as the date. These are both really important, being able to label your notes with the topic and the date, and then questions and connections and concerns that you might have, and then notes that you are taking in class, which you can add to this box. And then post-class, you can add a summary, just 2 or 3 sentences of what the main takeaways are. So this really allows you the space to be organized and label your notes, to write down any questions that you might have, to work in class, and then to summarize everything that you have learned. This is probably one of those things that is going to take a lot of practice, and that's okay. I know that if I used this method, I would need to do at least 3 or 4 sets of notes to really understand how it worked for me. But we're going to talk about some tips that might be helpful as you are kind of trying this Cornell method, if that you find that's something that you want to do. And then the mapping method is a second method of taking notes. Has anybody used the mapping method before? Okay, yeah, it's one of those that is a little bit more general, but it can be very useful for handwritten notes. So if you're someone who likes to take notes by hand, this might be one of your preferred methods. So this can be helpful for making connections between big concepts and ideas, and then very useful for post-class or post-reading studying. So one of the assignments in English 112 is to find a profession and then write about the writing that takes place in that field. So in this case, I was trying to identify what are some things I could do research on. If I were looking for what a librarian might write, what are some things that I could start reading about or start learning about? And you can see here on the arrows, I've made some connections between certain concepts and certain ideas. This can help me as I do research. This can help me as I'm looking for things to write about or to read. And this may also be helpful as you take notes in class. Okay, so any questions about those two methods? Anything that you are thinking about when you see those two methods? Anything you might be willing to try? Yeah, maybe the mapping. And the big thing with these two suggestions is that they don't work for everybody. So if you find that you try it and it just doesn't work for you, that's okay. The main thing is that you're personalizing your learning so that you feel like you can be successful when you take notes, whatever they may look like. All right. Candace is going to introduce us to a couple of strategies for taking notes, and then we will talk about some ideas for pre-class and during class and post-class taking notes.
Awesome. So I think it's really important for all of us to be aware of really some easy things that you can do and some tips that can assist you as you're navigating effective note taking. One of the things that you can do is highlight, color code your notes. And so I know sometimes when I work with students, they highlight and they overuse the highlight colors. They're not consistent with the colors that they use. And then it starts to just be a little bit confusing. So I would encourage you to utilize a color code system that works for you, that you stick to. So for instance, if you say you choose a yellow highlighter, only use that yellow highlighter for one thing. Use that for, let's say, definitions, or you could use it for main concepts, but be consistent with how you use each color throughout the process. And then also you want to make sure that you limit yourself to highlighting one sentence or a phrase ever so often. You don't want to overuse highlighters. Look for the sentence that best expresses your main concept. That's a good approach to using highlighters. I myself, I utilize this method. It is effective when I am most consistent. When we start to get a little overwhelmed, that's when it starts to be not as effective. So get a color code system and stick to it. That's a helpful tip. Also, you can bold, italicize, and underline. This is another tip that can help you focus on main concepts. Ultimately, you need to develop your own shorthand of how to identify things that are the most important to recall for testing purposes and for learning. And so again, we want to be consistent with how we utilize these tools. Underlining, let's say, equations, or utilizing the italicized for quotes that you may write down that were really important from class, but being consistent with that is important. Same thing, stick to the same cues and clues. If you are utilizing, let's say, symbols, which I do often, if you use stars for very important, or use a star for this is something the instructor indicated would be tested on. Use those cues and be consistent with how you notate them within your note system. Using those images and visuals. The light bulb is really good. Sometimes I've used that myself. I encourage you to come up with your own images and visuals that work best for you. That could be an angry face for whatever purpose that might connect with you. But whatever the face is, or whatever the symbol is, it can be helpful in your notes, especially when it comes to recalling the important things. And then label your notes consistently. Include class title, date, topic for the date. The dates can be really helpful in helping you identify information chronologically, and also days that have been emphasized by your instructor. And so labeling them consistently can be very helpful. But it's also really important to know your instructor, know what you are to be tested on or what's expected of you, so that when you're labeling things, when you are highlighting or emphasizing certain aspects, you're doing it according to what your instructor is indicating is important for you to recall for testing purposes and for learning purposes. All right. And Morgan, do you want me to cover this one as well?
Oh, yes, please.
Awesome. And so in class, so here's some tips for in class. Paraphrase or summarize in your own words. You have to do that in your own words. If you don't understand your own notes, it's definitely not going to help you as you prepare for assessments. So make sure that you are using your own shorthand, what makes sense for you, in writing down your notes while you are in class. Bold or emphasize major concepts, terms, or ideas. I know for me as an instructor, I will often emphasize important concepts, terms, and ideas, and repeat that often in class. The purpose is to emphasize that for our students and helping them know the things that are really important for them to retain. So if your instructor is like me, or is audibly expressing that these are the concepts or terms or ideas, make sure you bold them. Make sure that you are doing that in real time, and not going back and say, okay, now I'm going to bold, or now I'm going to underline. Trying to do that in the moment in class so that you are able to take a good snapshot of the important things that you need to recall. And then ask your instructor to clarify or to repeat something if you've missed it. That is a big part of growing as a student. If you do not understand something, it is better to ask for help or raise your hand at that moment, that day, that week, versus waiting further along, hoping that something begins to make sense. It's a classic that we do sometimes as human beings, but the best way that you can help yourself is to make sure whatever you're being taught in class, whatever you're writing down as notes, that you truly are understanding what you need to retain. And so ask your instructor, ask the questions that you might have. Absolutely, Morgan. And then if you feel like you could benefit from a recording, you may even ask your instructor for that. That might be something that they're open to doing, but you need to, of course, make sure that you check with your instructor. Of course, many online classes are recorded, so you can also go back and take notes. That can be a really helpful feature, especially if you are slower in your note taking. Sometimes I feel that I am. And so if there's a recording, that helps you to make sure that you are retaining and writing down really the most important things to recall for testing. So that's in class, you can do all of those things. The best tip that is on that in class side really is to ask your instructor to clarify and repeat something if you've missed it, and not waiting till later to fill in those pieces. All right, so after class, what do? It is so very important to review your notes later the same day. Review your notes. Remember your note taking, any classwork, assessments that you're doing along your classes and throughout the semester. All of those things are preparing you for ultimately assessments, tests, or future assessments. And so it is really important that you review your notes, i.e. you take the time to make sure that you are really learning continually, consistently throughout your class. And so review your notes every day. It helps you with retaining that information. Even if you do that for 20 minutes a day, 25 minutes a day, make sure that you are doing that every single day. It can be really, really helpful. Repetition is how we often learn our best. Identify any questions that you might have. Make an appointment with your instructor. Bring questions to the next class. If you need additional support, you understood the concept, but let's say you struggled with really understanding a part of it or a piece of it, and you would like clarification, please always feel free to reach out to your instructors. That's what they're there for. You can make an appointment. All of your instructors should have listed within their Blackboard course shell their office hours or the ways that you can connect with them in real time. So just make sure that you reach out, and then you can also bring those questions to the next class. Sometimes instructors allow or really have a time set up in their class for, are there any questions from your last class? And if your instructor does something like that, be ready. Have those questions available so that they can assist you, because it's really important that you understand as the class is happening. And so that's a really good tip. And then add specific examples to your notes. This is a really, really good tip. Once you have studied, once you have reviewed your notes, once you have read your textbook, read your assigned readings, you will encounter, depending on what type of class it is, many examples. And there are examples that will resonate with you stronger than others, that'll help you understand a concept a little bit more clearly. If you find that example, if you have those examples, add those to your notes, write it in so that it helps you. Whatever helps you retain is really something that you should put energy and effort into doing. Everybody is different. We all learn differently, but examples is a good way to go, especially when you're going back to review for testing purposes. Another way that you can receive support in note-taking is really working and connecting with your success coach. So my role as a director of student success is leading the success coach team. We have 4 amazing success coaches that are actually physically based out of Lee main campus, but serve students across all of our campuses. It is important that you connect with your success coach. We have the ability and time to sit down with you and offer you tips for your success. I would love to meet with any of you myself. Any of the success coaches would love to do that. We can sit down with a coaching appointment You can identify, literally bring your notes to us and share with us, okay, this is where I'm struggling, or this is where I really would like some tips. And we can walk you through some options and point you towards some resources. That is what we do as success coaches. We are always here to support you along your academic journey, to cheer you on, to provide you resources and tips to help you succeed. And so I encourage each of you to get connected with your success coach if you have not done so already. That link that is on the screen is for the College Success Center. There is a page that's Meet Your Success Coach. And so you should be able to identify your program and the coach that works with you. You can also identify your success coach via Aviso. We're listed near your academic advisor. You can also drop into that virtual success lounge that you see on the screen. We are available Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and now Thursday. So we need to update that. But now Thursday as well. And you can drop in at any time and say, hey, I'd like to make an appointment, or hey, I actually am right here sitting with my notes and I have a question. So whatever the circumstance is, the Success Coach team and the College Success Center is here to support you.
Thank you, Candace. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
A couple of other things I wanted to point out that the library can help with is we have a lot of resources that may be useful as you are navigating note-taking either for the first time, or if you are just looking for ways to improve your note-taking abilities and experiences. So I have linked these resources here. These are just a few. If none of these really work for you, we can always find you more resources. And you can go to cccc.edu/library and you can chat in with us and a librarian will answer you, or you can email me and I'll provide my email at the end, and we can sit down and help you find some resources that can help you feel supported if you would like to read more about this topic. These 4 resources are very accessible. They're ebooks and articles, and you will be able to review them as long as you are logged into your CCCC portal account. You will be able to access this material. And if you have any trouble, just let us know. So are there any questions right now about what we covered today or anything that we discussed, whether about note-taking, the library, or the Success Center? Oh, that's a great question. So all of these links will be provided to you. As soon as this program is over, I'm going to upload the recording, and then I will include the recording to you along with the slides. Is there a particular link though that you were looking for that we can provide right now? All right, so just to kind of wrap everything up, here is the link to connect with Success Coach. That's also been put in with the chat. And then here's my email, as well as the link to schedule an appointment if you would like to learn more about library resources, about note-taking, or about how you can find those resources within the library. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciated that you were here. We hope that you got something from this, and we look forward to talking with you and working with you further.
Bye. Thank you for coming.